Hey folks, this is Riker with a gaming news wrap-up video where we discuss the happenings of the week. This week's topics include a Diablo Blizzcon Leak, official Overwatch breakfast cereal coming to stores near you, the latest hands-on gameplay demo of Fallout 76, and more. As always, timestamps can be found in the video description if you're so inclined to skip ahead. But before you do, a quick reminder to ring the sub-notification bell to be alerted of new Saturday episodes. Starting with some rapid-fire news topics, Wolcen. This is an upcoming action RPG that we have covered previously on this channel. It's been in alpha for a while, and we've been waiting for the beta to drop. It was supposed to drop in September. We've now gotten news, so the beta will be deployed in 2 phases. Starting with the technical beta that was intended to originally go live October 11th, but then that had to be delayed due to unforeseen circumstances coming up by, quote, a few days. And if you haven't seen some of the footage, the game is changed in a pretty big way since alpha. Looks vastly improved, but I think the most exciting feature coming with beta is multiplayer. People have been asking about multiplayer, and finally, when the technical beta does launch, which is hopefully next week, you'll get to try out that multiplayer. Although that presupposes you have friends to play with. In other news, Shadow of the Tomb Raider's first DLC adventure has been revealed, The Forge, coming November 13th. In it, you will brave the lava-flooded forge of the fallen gods to uncover the secrets of Kuakiaku. This DLC will introduce a new challenge tomb that can be played either single-player or co-op, which again assumes you have friends to play with. It was confirmed that Shadow of the Tomb Raider will receive 7 DLCs in total, with future DLC offerings including challenge tombs, co-op experiences, weapons and outfits, score attack and time attack modes, and additional narrative side missions. Again, The Forge releases November 13th for approximately $5, but you can also get a season pass for about $30. 7 DLCs at $5 a pop suggests you're saving $5 by going for the season pass. In our next story, we have confirmation that Baldur's Gate 3 is a project that is in the works. Baldur's Gate, the classic computer RPG. It's been a long time since Baldur's Gate 2. It's even been a few years now since Baldur's Gate Enhanced Edition, and at the time there was expressed some desire that there would be a Baldur's Gate 3, but nothing concrete was officially confirmed. However, in a Twitter reply, Brian Fargo tweeted, quote, "I happen to know who is working on Baldur's Gate 3. Now, if you don't know Brian Fargo, he is the boss of In Exile Entertainment, a dev studio which in its most recent years has pumped out some computer RPGs, including Wasteland 2 and Torment Tides of Numenera. But long before Fargo started In Exile, he founded Interplay, and it was a division of Interplay called Black Isle that developed Baldur's Gate. So when Brian Fargo says, "I happen to know who is working on Baldur's Gate 3, I'm inclined to believe him and take that as a statement that it is a project that is in the works. Or, you know, maybe he's just trolling so that he can shatter our hopes and dreams as he laughs maniacally and feeds on our tears. Alright, on to Fallout 76 news. Recently there was an event where members of the press were able to play the game for 3 hours. We've seen some reporting on this, we've seen some footage, and we actually got some insightful commentary from IGN, of all places. In his video, the IGN journalist says the game, quote, "feels lonely." It's a multiplayer game, but not massively so. I believe the journalist went in expecting there to be a lot more players than he ultimately encountered, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. He described exploring alone for 20 minutes before running into another human being. And the way he framed this in a positive way was that encountering another player felt like an event. Now, one thing we have to remember about Fallout 76 is that PvP is optional. And it seems there's some pretty heavy consequences to being a player killer as well. Further, it doesn't seem like it's going to be really easy to level up and then just stomp on noobs, because damage is going to be normalized across player levels. So low-level players do stand a chance fighting higher-level ones. The journalist described the feel of the game to be very Fallout 4, but one thing that is very evident from all the gameplay footage that you see is that the VAT system now basically just acts like an auto-aim. Obviously, you can't pause or slow down time in a multiplayer game, so a lot of us speculated that maybe VATs would just be gone. And I almost wish they had taken that route instead. I mean, half the fun of the VAT system is seeing those slow-motion kill cams. And to have it in the way it is, at least without experiencing it myself, just looks like it's very unsatisfying. It almost feels just tacked on, like, well, this is a Fallout game, we must include VATS somehow, but I don't know, what do you think? Do you think they should have just removed it? Now, one positive that the IGN journalist highlighted is that the world is hugely varied. You get some very different environments depending on where you travel in the map. And one thing that must be noted, because this might be a sort of make it or break it for a lot of people, is that there definitely are survival elements, for instance, in the form of needing to eat. Now, in the video description, I'll drop a link to the IGN footage, as well as 3 hours of uncut gameplay from YouTuber CamelWorks, as well as 15 minutes of gameplay from Polygon. Now, I didn't watch the full 3 hours of uncut gameplay from CamelWorks. I actually noped out when I saw him struggle to kill a giant firefly. And I use the term giant loosely. Watching him first shooting at it and missing half of his shots, and then pulling out a melee weapon and missing half of his swings, it was just very frustrating to watch. And this is not a criticism of the player. I don't imagine that I would have performed any better. It just seems very annoying to be fighting something that is just an insect about this big, it taking a couple bullets, not dying, a couple swings, not dying, all the while flying away from you, forcing you to chase it. Ugh. Currently, I'm very ambivalent towards Fallout 76. I have mixed feelings. I like some aspects, I dislike others. I really want to enjoy this game, and I hope it's going to be good, but you'll have to call me anyone other than Anthony Bourdain, because I have a lot of reservations. Alright, on to an update about Telltale Games. Now, we gave the full story on Telltale Games from their founding to their effective closure. Last we left off, there was a skeleton crew that remained in order to fulfill the company's remaining obligations. Well, recently, one employee from this skeleton crew reported that her team, which is not the entire crew, but a part of it, was laid off as well. But some good news has emerged as to the fate of the remainder of the Walking Dead game series. Skybound Games has reached a deal with Telltale Games that will allow Skybound to continue The Walking Dead the final season. Now, Skybound Games is a division of Skybound Entertainment, owned by Robert Kirkman, the creator of The Walking Dead. So this is very much a coming home to Papa moment. On to Overwatch news. The Halloween event kicked off this week. If you haven't seen the trailer, I encourage you to, even if you're not an Overwatch fan. They really went all out with this trailer. As per usual, there are new Halloween-themed skins. The Chateau Deathmatch map is being Halloween-themed. And all you have to do is log in during the event to unlock a free legendary loot box, i.e. a loot box that contains a legendary cosmetic. Now, apart from this, there isn't really much new about the event itself. There were more changes to Halloween Terror last year, and it does make one wonder, what has the Overwatch team been up to? Within the last couple of weeks, Papa Jeff released a video stating that the team is mostly working on quality of life stuff, on stability, on ensuring the integrity of the current experience rather than developing new content, but if you look at the job postings, they also seem to be hiring for a lot of positions, so what is actually going on? Will we find out at BlizzCon? I don't know. In case you didn't notice, Pharah's new skin is really cool in a number of ways. First off, she is an animated suit of armor. She's not a headless horseman. There is nothing under the armor. Maybe it's a ghost, or again, it's just animated armor. So when she dies, the armor just collapses to the ground, similar to when Bastion dies. It's a really nice little added effect. In other Overwatch news, a balance patch went through this week, including the major Torbjorn rework that we spoke about previously. We also saw nerf to Doomfist's hand cannon. We saw buffs to Soldier 76 and Orisa, their bullet spread isn't as bad anymore. We saw a buff to McCree, his combat roll cooldown has been lessened. We saw nerf to Brigitte, her shield health has been decreased. May's powers got a whole visual rework for better readability. And then we've got a rework to Pharah. First off, the delay between her rockets is less, so she can fire rockets more frequently. But the rockets' damage has been reduced. But the direct impact damage of rockets has been increased, but their knockback has been reduced. But her concussive blast cooldown has been reduced, so she can use that more often. So overall, it's a lot of up and down with Pharah. People are still debating whether it's overall a nerf or a buff. I believe the design intent was to make her less spammy and more skill-based, but we'll see how that plays out. And then lastly, for Overwatch news, as reported by the Junk Food Aisle, courtesy of Kellogg's, unofficial Lucio O's breakfast cereal will be coming December 3rd. That's right, the Lucio O's spray, which the community has been asking to have changed to just Lucy O's for the longest time, is turning into an actual cereal. And if you buy a box, you get access to an in-game loot boost, which is something that has previously existed through cross-promotion with other Kellogg's products. Basically, you take a picture of your receipt, you have to upload that to the Kellogg's website within 30 days of purchase, and then for the next 3 times that you level up, you're going to get an extra loot box. Now, there are limits on how long this promotion lasts and how long you have to earn those loot boxes, but interesting. I would have bought the cereal just for the sake of the cereal, but a loot boost, I guess it's at least nice to know that even if you hate the cereal, you still get extra loot boxes as a consolation prize. Alright, on to Diablo news, and we have to start by just... Oof, okay. Leveling some expectations here. Now, if somehow you're not aware of this, I love Diablo. And I, for years, have been talking about Diablo 4 and speculating on what's coming, and trying to point at any real evidence that we can see to suggest and confirm our speculations. And believe me, there's no one out there that wants to see Diablo 4 or the new major Diablo game revealed at BlizzCon than me. But I think people are going a little bit too nuts right now with speculating on the slightest little things and interpreting that as evidence. For instance, people are pointing a lot at the Diablo merchandise in the shop, trying to guess any little clue from that as a sign of Diablo 4 or what the new Diablo game is, and we've seen this happen in previous years. Diablo merch has not always been for Diablo 3, and historically in the past it has not meant anything. Even when they give their merch clever little subtitles, it is not a leak or a hint at an upcoming game, it's just what they name their merch. They gotta call it something other than just Diablo shirt. Then people are also pointing to the logo on the BlizzCon schedule, changing to a square with 4 diamonds in it. Square has 4 sides, 4 diamonds, Diablo 4 confirmed, right? Yeah, this square has been around for years. I believe it was 2016 the first time that Blizzard used this logo in some places instead of the Diablo 3 logo. It did not mean Diablo 4 then, it does not necessarily mean Diablo 4 now. Yes, it is noteworthy that on the BlizzCon schedule, this is the first time they're using the generic, I'm going to call it the generic Diablo logo, rather than the Diablo 3 logo, which lends further evidence that whatever announcement we're going to get at BlizzCon for Diablo will not be Diablo 3 related necessarily, but that is a far cry from saying that it is confirming Diablo 4. So amidst all the speculation, we gotta not get too carried away. We can still be hype, and I'm still excited. Whatever they're gonna announce for Diablo will be big, but it's not necessarily going to be Diablo 4, or Diablo Next, as Redditor Mr. Pinsky puts it. And Mr. Pinsky put together an excellent, comprehensive list of everything we know about Diablo 4, or rather the new Diablo project. And if you've watched every single one of my videos and remember the contents, then you'll know everything that his post covers, but it's just really nice to have all of this info in one place, just a summary of everything. And if I were to make a TLDR version of it, basically, the evidence does point to a major new Diablo game in the works. We have an idea even of who some of the team members may be, but we're not guaranteed an announcement this BlizzCon. But I do encourage you to check out his post, read the details for yourself. It's a nice crib sheet before the final exam at BlizzCon. Now, in a previous video, I discussed the likelihood of what different announcements we may get at BlizzCon, and I need to revise one of my guesses. I think the likelihood of a remaster has risen. I've been looking at the clues, the evidence again. I'm not saying anything is guaranteed, but I just like to revise my guess, increase the odds of a remaster of D1 or D2, decrease the odds of a D4 announcement, and a new leak lends some added proof to the direction of a remaster. Now, if you are a BlizzCon virtual ticket holder, you have access to watch videos on the BlizzCon website. If you're not a ticket holder, you can still go to the website and see what the videos are, see the thumbnails, see the descriptions, but you can't actually watch the video. Now, earlier this week, a video went up that was basically about the music of StarCraft, but the video thumbnail was of Diablo. This here was the thumbnail. Now, this is pretty clearly Diablo 1 Diablo, and this is pretty clearly either exactly or something very similar to the vinyl Diablo costume that was made to promote Diablo 1 so many years ago. Now, the most interesting thing here is that after maybe a day or so, the thumbnail was changed to what it should be, because the video had no reference to Diablo at all. I believe that there was some mix-up. I believe that In the video, they're talking about vinyl records. So the thumbnail they grabbed was probably vinyl because the new thumbnail shows a vinyl record. But maybe they got that confused with the vinyl figurine, or maybe the suit is vinyl. If you look into it, the suit is actually made of foam rubber, but I don't know enough about materials. Maybe the term vinyl was used somewhere. In the description of the Diablo 1, again, be it figurine, be it costume, whatever that is. So they probably just saw in the thumbnail description, vinyl, they clicked that instead of the vinyl record, which it should have been. To me, that is a very plausible mistake. The only thing is, why did it take them so long to correct it? Regardless, it is very clear that it was not intended to be showing that image. Therefore, this to me is a leak. Maybe it's a leak of a video that is to be revealed soon. Whatever the case is, that is definitely Diablo 1 Diablo. And I believe there is some significance to that, and looking back on the past of Diablo, and again, the artwork, the header art for BlizzCon 2018 features this Diablo that does look like an older version of Diablo, be it Diablo 1 or even a younger iteration. But I turn the question to you folks. What kind of announcements are you expecting for Diablo this year? Now, in other Diablo news, in an interview with Business Insider on the topic of crossplay, a Blizzard rep said it's a question of when, not if. In other words, Blizzard does seem committed to having crossplay for Diablo 3. We now have Diablo 3 coming to the Nintendo Switch. It's already on PS4 and Xbox One. We have seen Fortnite breaking down the barriers of crossplay of PS4 and other systems. Now, one important thing to highlight is that the PC version of the game is quite different from the console version. I cannot imagine any crossplay for Diablo 3 happening between PC and other systems, but amongst the consoles, it does sound like Blizzard wants to make crossplay a thing. In other Diablo news, as reported by Medieval Dragon of BlizzPlanet, the 4-part Diablo series being published by Titan Comics has been cancelled. Through some excellent investigative journalism, Medieval Dragon found that pre-orders were getting refunded from various online retailers. And then he went in person to the New York Comic Con. He went to the Titan Entertainment booth and asked, what's the status of the Diablo comic? And the rep confirmed that the project has been cancelled. I'm going to quote Medieval Dragon here, quote, "Without paraphrasing the representative, the essence of it is that Blizzard is changing direction on the story. In my opinion, the comics possibly featured a story based on an upcoming Diablo project, and we all know how development of a game goes. Multiple iterations sometimes lead to changing aspects of the creative development." Now, I was really disappointed by that news. I was very much looking forward to the Diablo comic series. However, the silver lining here is that maybe it's because they intend to deliver this story through Netflix instead, or some other means of telling this story. At the very least, if there are still people that doubt that there is some kind of new Diablo project coming, this is further proof. If they're still changing the story, then why not let this comic release? It seemed that this comic was already either finished or nearly finished. Blizzard sunk money into this. If Blizzard didn't care, they could have just said, screw it, release it, let's try to recover whatever money we can. They canceled it. Sunk cost, right? They're not getting that money back from Titan Comics, so they care enough to not just release a product that will not mesh with the story that they're telling. There's definitely a way to look at this in a positive light as to what's to come for Diablo. But to end off on a dour note, okay. David Brevik, one of the fathers of Diablo, who hasn't been at Blizzard now for over a decade, recently on his wife's stream expressed some sentiment after Mike Morhaime stepped down about Activision slowly taking over Blizzard. Let's take a look at this clip.
Blizzard 3 years from now, I don't think will be even Blizzard today.
It's going to be Activision.
Yeah, of course. Activision is taking over. Activision is winning at this slow game. Activision is exiling all of the Blizzard executives.
You deserve recognition. We don't know for sure, but that's what we think, maybe.
It sure seems that way.
Sure seems that way.
Metzen, Pardo, Morhaime, there's a lot in the last couple of years of the most influential people at Blizzard. The top 5 most influential people at Blizzard, 3 of them are gone in the last 2 years.
Now, David Brevik expresses that he has no inside information on the subject, but he highly suspects that Mike Morhaime stepped down after a greedy business decision was made. Basically, he says that there is current public knowledge that there was a recent change at Blizzard in which basically an employee bonus program was being cancelled, with the net result being that employees of Blizzard will be making significantly less money now. And it was shortly thereafter that Mike Morhaime stepped down. So the speculation here is that Morhaime stepped down because he was opposed to this decision. He didn't want to be greedy, he wanted to keep the benefit program, and he was effectively muscled out. Now, Brevik clearly holds Mike Morhaime in very high esteem. He says that Morhaime should be very proud. He says that Morhaime guided the ship in a great direction. Now again, we have to stress that Brevik is not acting on any insider knowledge here, but he was with Blizzard for a very long time throughout its formative years. Brevik and a lot of the senior staff of Blizzard North, the people working on Diablo 3, who had made Diablo 1 and 2, left Blizzard due to disagreements with Vivendi, the then parent company of Blizzard. So he does know a thing or two about that corporate side of things, the business side of things, and about all those pressures from the shareholders and how that could influence and harm the culture of a company. And while for years many people have been saying, Activision is gonna take over and corrupt Blizzard, blah, 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 when it comes from David Brevik, it makes me quite a bit more sad. The fewer Mike Morheims there are in the company, the fewer people in high positions of power that can help retain the core values of Blizzard, the more that higher-up Activision executives are able to spread and enforce their influence, the more Blizzard will lose the core of what it always was. But again, speculation, and hopefully this is not a valid concern, but do sound off in the comments with your thoughts on that. To finish up this video, our weekly update on Diablo job postings. We have seen 3 new job postings go up: an art outsourcing supervisor for environments, a senior concept artist, and a senior lighting artist, all for the new unannounced Diablo project. And that's going to wrap up this week's video. But be sure to have checked out last week's video, where we discuss what the BlizzCon schedule means for Diablo. And if you have a story that you'd like to see me cover in a future video, please post it on the subreddit. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch and Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider becoming a Royal Raider on Patreon, where we've got a variety of backer rewards, including behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Riker's Raiders for more gaming content.